Too big, too small, making changes. It's a real skills workshop for finding clarity and being able to put that into action in a way that's right for you. And I'm Rick from Thriving Now. I'm here with Kathy Bartuli from Thriving Now and the Intimacy Dojo. Kathy, this was your idea for this workshop. And I'd love to hear like how this has played in your life as you've navigated decisions and actions and lifestyle changes.
Well, I've worked with a lot of clients, and I've also noticed myself, I work with a lot of people that do business or want to making changes in their lives. And I had a client was talking the other day about like, I don't even want to take this to first step. I can't, the biggest step that I can take is so small it wouldn't matter. So I'm not even going to go there. And it reminded me of when I sent the email out, but for a long time, I just never spoke up. Like until I met Rick and started doing EFT and then started doing other coaching, like I never spoke up with my friends. Like if they wanted to see a movie I didn't want to see, I would hint, I would hope. If I didn't like something they said or did, I would never speak up. And it left our relationships very one-sided. And I was like secretly resentful. And they didn't really get to know me at all. There wasn't really a relationship. It was just like this. They were dealing with this, kind of robotic person that would do whatever they wanted. I wasn't happy. They weren't happy. And as I did more work and started getting brave, I noticed that I would do that. I'm going to speak up next time. This time is just too small. It's just a bother. It's annoying. Like, why make a fuss over something so small? Oh, I can't talk about this thing because it's so big it might blow up the relationship. No. So, and I noticed that I would go back and forth and it was like a long time. And I'd like, our friend Reed Mahako, he talks about when you want to have a difficult conversation, if it's been more than 3 days, don't wait for that ideal person, that ideal situation, like just have it. And I was like, oh, it's been 3 months or 3 years since I've had this, like I've been waiting for the just right. I was like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I wanted the porridge to be just right temperature. And I think when we're scared about something, our brain will make it very binary. It's too small or too big. There's never a just right. Yeah. So we're always waiting and we're not actually taking any action. We're not making any changes. So I think it's just a great topic for a lot of people because a lot of us do this.
Mm-hmm. If you make such an important distinction that, when one of the advantages of working with clients who want or need to make a change in their life is that in that place, we get to explore like, well, what's stopping you? And it often falls into that binary choice. Like it's too big. And when I think about doing it, I get terrified or scared. And when you take something that's terrifying and scary and you break it down, there's a lot of pieces to it. And there's usually a few of them that are like really too big. Yeah. They're not as clear. The resource isn't there, the trust, all the things that
it might randomly work out, but it's not like
it doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. And it's true though. Like it's too big. Yeah. It's too big for right then and that moment. And there could be like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have that life if I could get there? But the too bigness ends up stopping action. And then there's that too small. It's like, oh, well, what's the use? 20 minutes? This is, this is a 2,000-hour project. What is 20 minutes? And I see that with clutter, for example. Someone looks at their house and they think, this has been 15 years in the making. This is not a weekend project. This is not and so when you tell me to spend 5 minutes with one item and feeling the emotion in it.
There's 10,000 items. How dare you say 5 minutes for one thing?
Right. And so when you're looking for the just right, that's often a protection mechanism.
Well, I think it's procrastination. It's a way to procrastinate without realizing you're procrastinating.
Right. And procrastination is usually a protection.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
this feels either too scary, I feel unprepared, unsupported, a lot of other reasons, or you're not even grounded in why it matters to you.
Yeah.
Our approach um, then is going to focus on baby steps. If you've known us for a while, you'll
You
hear
might have heard of the baby steps.
baby steps, micro steps. If you want to look at it that way, um, but to make it so that there's energy behind it. So we're going to be tapping and looking at the energy of too small. We're going to be looking at the energy of too big. We're going to be looking for one, two, three things that you could do to make a lifestyle change and ground it in the long term so that you actually integrate it into your life in a way that matters to you, that'll help you build um, the kind of thriving lifestyle that you want for
And
yourself.
one of the things we love to work with people. If something comes up with you specifically, please message us either privately or in the chat so that we know that you want to tap so we can leave time for that because we're really glad to do that. And one of the things I'd love for you to do, if you're up for it, this will add some extra oomph to this workshop, is if you have one area of your life where you've noticed this bit too big, too small, write it down. Um, if you want to share it in the chat, that's a great way to kind of gently call yourself out and get some support about it. When it's alone spinning in your head, it's hard to get traction. If you share it with a group, this is a very friendly group. If you just share it in the chat, um, often that you start seeing things from a different perspective. The hamster was in the wheel that's just been going around for a long time. It's hard to like, okay, let's get off the wheel, stop, let's undizzy ourselves and like ground ourselves before we move forward. Um, and one of the things I want to add too is one of the things with taking small steps, and even if you're thinking they're too small, is you start to get mini rewards and you build up the muscles of this process. So when I started talking to my friends, I was super awkward about it. Like I was just like, I don't know if you mind, but I noticed that I kind of maybe sort of don't want to see that movie. It's scary. Oh, you don't want to see that movie? Oh, I'm glad to see something else. There was a reward, like a kind of like I got to see, and it didn't always turn out perfectly, but I also had that feeling in my body of it kind of builds some momentum as you go because you're getting little dopamine hits. So you're like, I faced that scary thing and I came out the other side. It it does like there's a reward there. So we want you to get to those rewards.
Mm.
So I would encourage you to write down if you want what it is that pick one thing. And again, if you notice you want to pick all the things, that's your survival brain trying to distract you. Bring it back and like, okay, what is one thing that I want to work on that I do this with? Um, and I think I just wanted to add about the procrastination.
Yeah.
Our brain likes to be busy. Okay, so if I'm saying I want to declutter my desk, and I'm like, oh, I only have 5 minutes right now. I'm not going to do it. I'll wait till tomorrow when I have all day. And then I sit on the couch all day, never coming near my desk. Um, it's our brain is looking, oh, there's too much time. And now I have too big a section of time. I don't want to face it. Um, we start looking for that perfect amount of time. We're like Goldilocks looking for the porridge that's just the right temperature. And that's what our brain becomes busy doing. And we get distracted versus like, okay, in 5 minutes, I could take the dirty dishes that are on my desk to the kitchen and still have time to spare. Like, and then I come back the next day and it's already partly clean. I'm like, oh. So I want to just emphasize that our brain will get us looking for something else than the thing we want to do because then we're chasing that other thing and not noticing it kind of distracts us from, hey, I haven't done anything on this in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I've been
Would you like to lead us in just a quick tapping to
yeah,
invite us to get clarity and focus in for
yeah.
this?
So I invite you all just take a nice slow deep breath. Let yourself, if you can, like a lot of us are doing many things and our attention is over, like I haven't put away the groceries, I haven't like picked up the mail. Let yourself just come here and now. Imagine that we're in this very lovely circle that Rick built and that we all contributed to. And see if you can let the Facebook cats go do something else for a little while. Let yourself come here and now. And just take another nice deep breath. Karate chop. Even though I don't want to be present right this moment.
Even though I don't want to be fully present right this moment.
They might make me look at things I don't want to see.
They might make me look at things I don't want to see.
And even if I'm just present for this moment.
And even if I'm just present for this moment.
It's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's too small.
It's too small.
I just can't be bothered.
Oh, I just can't be bothered.
I'll wait till later when I have more time to be present.
I'll wait till later when I have more time to be present.
Top of the head, but what if right now is the only time that matters?
What if right now is the time that matters?
Eyebrow, it doesn't matter how much time there is.
It doesn't matter how much time there is.
Side of the eye, I can sink into my body and be present with me.
I can sink into my body and be present with me.
Under the eye, that might feel really good.
That might feel really good.
Under the nose, it might not feel good at all.
It might not feel good at all.
Chin, but if it doesn't feel good.
But if it doesn't feel good.
Collarbone, there might be some things for me to clear out.
There might be some things for me to clear out.
Under the arm, and if I don't ever face them.
And if I don't ever face them.
Top of the head, I'll never clear this out.
I'll never clear it out.
And I just invite you to take a breath.
Ooh.
And notice if there's any, like our body, we often talk, Rick and I talk about body sensations. As you imagine sinking into your body, wiggling your toes, actually being co-present with your body, notice how your muscles feel, your heart feels, your lungs. Is there constriction? Is there heat? Is there resistance? And if so, just maybe breathe into that spot. See if you can be with that for a moment. We often don't want to be with those feelings, and yet if we can be with them for just a moment, if we can tolerate them for even 20 seconds, often we see a lot of truth and they start processing and clearing. And if not, we might find a breadcrumb trail to where we need to go to be more present with ourselves.
And I'm curious, for those that have tuned into something, where's your energy going? Is it feeling like it's too big or feeling like it's too small? One person shared, I've been wanting to work on creating my backyard garden and sanctuary, but too big, too expensive, et cetera, et cetera. Really classic kind of like, oh, we have a vision and we'd like to do that, but the vision is got too much to it, too much effort, too much money. It's like, that's the way it feels for me. Like, I'd like to be physically stronger. It's my work is not something where I actually lift and move things. And I can imagine a lifestyle over the next 30 years where I'd really like to be strong enough that carrying a 50-pound bag of sand, for example, or rock or something like that would be within my range. Now, as soon as I start picturing myself doing that, my back starts hurting, my shoulder, my neck are saying, no way. And this is, again, like, this is where if you're having a reaction of too big, it's really useful to recognize that your energy is already like shutting down possibilities. Okay. Because it's focused on this idea of what it has to be. And it's saying, no, I can't do that.
It's quite rigid. If it doesn't look exactly like that, I'm not even going to start.
Right. Because that's like, maybe not everyone's brain works this way and they stay more in that creative flow. But again, if you've already jumped to too big, you don't have all your resources, to me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I would tap for my my shift that I want. Even though I want to make a change,
Even though I want to make a change,
my vision of it is way too big.
my vision of it is way too big.
It's way too expensive.
It's way too expensive.
I can't afford that equipment.
I can't afford that equipment.
I don't know where to put it.
I don't know where to put it.
It's too much work.
It's too much work.
And it's uncertain.
And it's uncertain.
No wonder I haven't made any movement.
No wonder I haven't made any movement.
Top of the head. I've decided it's too big.
I've decided it's too big.
Eyebrow. I've decided already that it's too big.
I have decided already it's too big.
Side of the eye. I want to be physically stronger.
I want to be physically stronger.
Under the eye. But I have this idea of what that means.
But I have this idea of what that
Under
means.
the nose. And it's too big.
And it's too big.
Chin. It's too big right now.
It's too big right now.
Hold on. It's not a body yes for me.
It's not a body yes for me.
I wonder if there's a more right-sized choice.
I wonder if there's a more right-sized choice.
Up ahead. I'm inviting my brain to come up with some ridiculously small possibility.
I'm inviting my brain to come up with some ridiculously small possibilities.
So I like the word ridiculous. You could add kooky, you could add, teensy weensy possibilities. And again, we're going from too big and we're inviting some steps in the other direction. Okay. For me, what comes to mind is I do this morning mile. I've been doing it for nearly 600 days. It's not always a mile. Sometimes my morning mile is down the driveway and back about 150 feet. Like
sometimes it's 2 miles. I've heard
today it was 1.6 miles. But I imagine if I want to get physically stronger, what's something that I do not do? I do not do a push-up against a tree. But I did this morning, just one. I just grabbed that tree and I puffed up my muscles a bit. And I just, snorted a little bit of the bark and pushed back. And, that's expressing physical strength. I had the idea also like, well, I've got this toddler and
weightlifting with her.
And what if I just lifted her like up intentionally if she's up for that? I even have an 8-year-old who's twice as heavy and I could
probably count for you.
I could do a leg press with him, just one. And what is this saying to me? I want to use my body for things that require just a bit more physicalness, muscle use. And as I try that on, this is where we each have to look at, like, does that feel like it's too small? So there's a part of me, like this part of my brain that goes, oh, that's not going to get you where you need to be. Did you notice what it said? Need to be. That's a decision that I haven't made. I mean, like, that's a primitive brain kind of, oh, you need to do this, right? These are clues. We're emotional freedom coaches. We look for clues in people's self-language, including our own, that say there's a part of us that is not in the creative dance, right? It's not in the place of possibility and clarity. It's in like, it has to be this way or we can't do it. And that's more primal. It's not as creative and savvy.
I think there's a lot when we're not in our moment, in the present. Like, I'm going to walk right now. I will often do this. So I'll like get way ahead in the present or in the future, and I'll create a picture. Like, my brain, most of us are creative people. We're looking for a really specific outcome, and we think we're going to go there by this linear approach. Like, it's going to be this, like, I walked a mile today, I can walk 5 miles by the end of the month. Like, there's a very rigid. Notice if you're trying to hold on to the outcome in a very rigid way, because that often will signal we're not being present with ourselves and we want a picture of something versus the experience of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Even though part of me wants this picture
even though part of me wants this
and insists it's the only way,
and insists it's the only way.
a part of me also knows that I could be more creative.
A part of me also knows I can be more creative.
And small increments do make a difference.
And small increments do make a difference.
Top ahead. Small increments do make a difference.
Small increments do make a difference.
I roll, but they don't solve the big problem.
But they don't solve the big problem right now.
Yeah. And the big problem can't be solved right now.
And the big problem can't be solved right now.
Yeah. I can't solve my health in an afternoon.
I can't solve my health in an afternoon.
Who knows? I could make it a little shittier.
I could make it a little shittier.
I definitely know how to make my health shittier.
I definitely know how to make my health shittier.
Collarbone, I wonder if there's something I could do that would be slightly better.
I wonder if there's something I could do that would be slightly better.
Unwind a little bit of tension.
Unwind a little bit of attention. Tension.
The arm. I'm asking the part of me that insists it's too big
I'm asking the part of me that insists it's too big
to join with some more creativity.
to join with some more creativity.
Up ahead. Look at options that nourish and serve me,
Look at options that nourish and serve me.
that are at least small steps in the direction I want.
That are at least small steps in the direction I want.
Now, for me, when I throw in something like, well, I definitely know how to make my health worse. I definitely know how to make my strength less.
Yeah.
Right? There's an acknowledgement like, oh, I could definitely today do something that would make me weaker.
Smoke a pack of cigarettes or
exactly.
a pint of ice cream or something.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. And for people that have, and I want to acknowledge, we have people in our community whose health conditions and current predicament is really profound. It's complex. It has many different aspects. And if we look at that and say, well, how do you address all of that? To me, that's too big.
Yeah.
Even as a professional, that's too big. And what I believe is that our energy matters. And that what I've noticed is that if somebody drops in and says, well, I'd like to make some movement on my clutter, and they set a 2 foot by 2 foot section of their table as a sacred space. And the first thing they do is clear it. And the next thing they do is they put something in it. It could be a wildflower. It could be a stone. It could be something that honors its place as the start of refining their energy. And they use that in some way, maybe to write a note that these things build. The push up against the tree from a professional physical trainer, that's not going to do it. But the energy of using your body in a different way than you have habitually sends a signal in. If you pay attention to a trend, so money, let's say that there's a nightmare situation money-wise, but over the course of 6 months, you now have a freedom fund with $50 in it, a ridiculously small amount of money. But there is something that you will be able to sit and say, I could order sushi tonight with my $50. I'm not choosing to, but I'm free now to do something that I wouldn't have been if I hadn't put that little bit of money aside. So the energy of something is nourishing for us. It's freeing for us. What is definitely not freeing is to have something that matters to us that we make no movement toward. So
and I think of just being, if we can be really present with ourselves when we take these steps. So if Rick, when you went out, you were present with, oh, my body feels a little resistant. I'm afraid I can't do it. I'm afraid it will hurt too much, whatever. If you can be present with that and then actually do it mindfully, you're clearing some of the emotional and energetic blocks from that. if that $1 or that clearing that one space, if you can be present and mindful, not lost in the future what it should look like or how many thousands you have to do, kind of willpowering through, but just like, oh, I'm going to clean my desk by putting this one pen over there. And I notice, oh, there's resistance. I feel like when my pens are all out, I'm obviously working really hard or whatever it is. Oh, and I still now have a little bit more space. Like I can be with myself as I do this. It actually, I think just the mindfulness and the presencing helps clear it. And your system starts learning that you can handle this. You can, someone shared that they were having trouble getting out and about after COVID. It's been really hard because, there was a long time when none of us were supposed to go anywhere. And it was reinforced by a lot of trauma. There was a lot of fear, like going out is bad and dangerous. And our survival brain, especially if we're kind of introverted or we don't like, we feel safer in our home, that can be really hard. And I did notice, like when I flew to Portland a few weeks ago, and I was terrified. I was like, I'm going to get on a plane. Oh my God. And I just tried to be very mindful with myself. Okay. I'm getting in my car or the car and going to the airport. I'm still really close to my house. If I need to go back, I'm just going to breathe. Notice I can do this. I'm at the airport. Like I kind of just took baby steps in that bigger trip and just like, okay, if I get really overwhelmed, I can go to the restroom and take my mask off for a few minutes. I can, like, there were things I could do. And I think that maybe if people haven't been out in a long time, and I've heard a lot of people have trouble with this right now, is like, I'm going to just go in my front yard and sit on the front steps and notice my feelings, maybe do some tapping or just notice that. Let the survival brain realize the front steps get to be a safe place. And then maybe I'll walk to the mailbox and back and just be really present with that step. And it's not about trying to force yourself through because that lumps more trauma and fear. If I'm doing it with willpower and like, oh, do it, you bad person, like you're just re-traumatizing yourself and anchoring those words and that tone with that activity, and you're going to hate it even more. Versus like, oh, I'm going to go and I'm just going to breathe and be here for a minute and not rush back to the house if that's what it is, or clean, put the pen back. It's allowing yourself to really experience and tolerate that little bit of discomfort that we might be feeling and clear it either with tapping or mindful presence, kind of self-talk to ourselves. Hey, survival brain, I know you're scared. This is actually real. Like, so let's look around. This is actually really safe. I like the sunshine on my face, the breeze, whatever it is. Just baby steps to anchor that we actually can do this.
I appreciate the sharing in the chat. It helps for Kathy and I to tune to kind of where people are. And the too big, too small, making changes. In one of the emails I sent out, it talked about trend. And I believe that one of the signals that a project is too big for our energy is that we don't follow through. And that's one part of it. Another part of it is that, and again, I'm intentionally simplifying, maybe oversimplifying, because sometimes like lack of follow through is a very complex dynamic. But for me, a project is like a goal. It's something that I'm going to go try to do that. It might be writing a book or doing the sanctuary backyard or something. Now, if that's a big project, then you're guaranteed this week to have a time where you have no energy for that project. And if it's not this week, it'll be next week because our energy varies. And that's one of the things that throws people off, is that there's this kind of expectation that I'm going to do this project and I'm going to get it done. And that falls apart. Now, imagine the difference between, like, I have this sanctuary project in my backyard or I craft with the palette of nature and it matters to me. And it's something that I take pleasure in. And one of the cool things is that even very small changes when you're working with nature, now, now that means that I'm grounding this in what matters to me, my core, the core things that if you asked me, well, is crafting with nature important to you? Well, yeah. Like for me, one of the things that's really precious to me is I notice stupid stuff that's beautiful. Like the littlest thing. I'll be walking along a trail and there'll be this one mushroom, right? And it's perfectly positioned to not get stepped on. If it was like a quarter inch further over, it would have been stepped on by so many people. But it's like found its one spot. And it just like, I'm here and I'm colorful and I'm amazing. And like I noticed that this morning. So like that matters to me. So going out for a walk includes that aspect of, ooh, this is a time for me to notice that. I also want to be someone who moves. Like part of my identity is someone who moves, who dances. So even though I'm walking, there's a quality of shifting it up and being able to try things. Notice that this has got a long time horizon and there's no like end point. In emotional, energetic work, when you're making a change, if it lands in the place of what matters to you, guess what? You can reinforce that it matters to you to be this person, to enjoy life in this way, to express my body in this way, to tend to my well-being in a certain way, to have a chance to laugh today matters to me. And that's very different than having a to-do item to laugh today or to go and dredge the 6 feet section. Doesn't mean that you can't project plan, but when we're seeking changes that could have a really significant impact 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, I talked about the trend of like, how would you like your body to be with you and the things that matter to you 5 years from now? And if I look at it like, well, I want to be strong, I want to be, well, that feels too big. Like now I'm like, I don't know if I'll get there. But if I say, I want to cultivate my vitality on a daily basis in some way that fits, like when I had COVID, cultivating my vitality that day was lying sweating on an air mattress, just doing this like a slow snail unwinding of the tensions in my body. That was it. That was my morning mile Thursday. But you know what? It felt like I was being true to myself. And that's part of it's not too big or not too small, but it is definitely it's true to you. And you can imagine your future self appreciating 10 years from now, hey, that dollar a day didn't seem like squat when we started it. But we get to have a vacation right now with our family and we get to pay for it because we have that in our freedom fund. Or we got to have this experience and this experience that we probably wouldn't have felt like we were free to do. As an example.
I think one of the things I noticed when you're talking is that it's a lot about the process. Like there's a lot, like I want my house to look a certain way. I want my body to look a certain way. I want my garden to look a certain way. And we have this end out picture versus, and that's hard to be, people are talking about, it's really hard to be consistent and follow through versus can I love the muscles of my body today and just like invite, okay, arms, we're going to just do a few things. I'm just going to be really present and do this lovingly for you. And I'm
Yeah.
going to notice the dopamine from doing that. Like, wow, I like that my arms feel happy. I feel happy they did this for me. Or tree, what branch would I prune to like make you a little more graceful and beautiful that would make you happy and healthy and make my sanctuary, add to the, how can I add a little bit to this versus I don't think there's anything wrong with having end goals, but a lot of times we get this very fixed picture and we want to jump right there. And then our system is like, no, that's like, it will evolve if we love the process of it. If we are just with the, like, I want to be much more active in social media with my business. Okay. I want to have already done that. But
I want to have already done
yes.
that.
But okay, writing one tweet, that's too little. But what if I could write that tweet with love and send it out to the universe and hope it touches somebody's heart and just be with the process of it and also clear my own blocks? Like, what if nobody sees this? What if it's the wrong thing? What if what if someone attacks me? If I can clear those blocks on those little steps and make the steps small enough that I can actually be loving and present with myself. Like, what branch do I want to trim? What weed do I want to pull? What stone do I want to move in very loving presence and make it a very spiritual process of creating the thing I want to have? When we break those small steps down, too small can be just right. I think that's I think that's going to be one of my new mantras. Like, if we have resistance around this, the very smallest of the baby steps allows us to be present with the resistances and fears that come up, allows us to be present with the cells in our body and the energy of our body as we do the thing. And that can really help us clear and pave the way for future. But we just have to be with the thing we're doing right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to put this pen over there, but I'm going to do it. Oh, pen, do you want to be this way or this way? I think this way. Okay. And I'm going to put you in the front. Does that feel okay? Oh, I think that feels really good. I'm going to do that because it feels good to me and the pen and my desk to create that. And it's sort of creating this spiritual center around yourself.
Yeah. So emotion, energy and motion. Um, and that was one of the key blocks that we're talking about, just to refresh. We're, we're looking at when something feels too big, acknowledging, hey, I, I made this big. Um, Maybe through my awareness of all the different aspects and all the different challenges and everything else, I like that I have a capacity to be aware of all of that. Like, my mind isn't simple. And what, what matters to me that I can engage with with us an amount of time and energy that feels nourishing and right balanced for where I am and the experience that I want. You said, Kathy, like, um, it's kind of a silly example, but our yard is really crazy. We were gone for 3 weeks, um, and there was this weed sticking up on the side of the driveway, and it just was bothering me. And all I did was stomp it, and now it's not sticking up anymore. Now,
For now.
trivial amount of sanctuary work, but Rick feels better. And it's energy moving. Now, as I think about it, I could definitely make the whole front yard really too big. But now I think about, there's just a couple of grasses and things that are coming out of the front, um, the front stonework. And if I just pull those out, um, it's going to look neater. It's not going to be done. There's no done when it comes to a garden in my experience.
It's a living meditation.
Right, like health or gardening or strength and flexibility or money and business engagements, and all of these are infinite games to me. And when put into that context, Now we're bringing a different kind of creativity to it. Um, uh, there was an article posted. You'll see it above the replay, um, but it talked about like there's a time when we put focused and directed energy into into doing something, and then there's the kind of the free form energy where we get ideas and the like. And I believe that in our Western culture, um, most of the time people are to do listing themselves. Someone even mentioned like an infinite to do list. I will tell you that if I did a to do list of everything that I need to do, like if I say, what do you need to do, Rick? It would have 8,000 items on it. I would be crying and I would feel like I there's nothing I can do with my life. Instead, I look at some things in a month that are meaningful and I write and I put like why would it be meaningful? I'm working on a little introductory course for the circle members. Why is that meaningful to me? Because I'm really excited about the people that are joining and the resource that we have and it's not obvious. And if I had something that I could point people to, it would feel really good to me. I don't have a specific deadline. I don't even say that it has to be a certain thing. But as I meander along my path looking at mushrooms, ideas will come to me. And sometimes I'll put energy into it and others they'll go away. But to me, that's a thriving engagement with something that matters to me, my work, which supports my family and supports my community. Um, and I'm getting an opportunity to feel into without it all being in a to-do list. Because again, I see people come up with these projects and to-do lists, and then they realize they don't have the time, they don't have the money, they don't have the energy, and they don't have the support to do it. When you really, if looked at co-creatively, that there's so many opportunities to pick something small that would be meaningful. Snip off a flower and bring it inside, you know? We have a lot of echinacea that grows rather wildly along the front. This season, we cut one of them and brought it in, and it was there in our kitchen in just a single vase for 3 weeks. It lasted. It was like, wow. um, and that changed the energy. And that's why I say, like, you don't necessarily have to, um, well, we're inviting us when we feel like it's too small, what's the use? It's too big, I can't do it, to drop into this place of I'm open to something ridiculously small that would feel true to me, good to me.
But yeah, I think of the intent behind it. So the person talking about wanting to create this garden, this sanctuary, what is it that you want to experience? And we're often taught by media, we have to buy this, like it has to have this fancy in-ground pool and these towering maples and this like paved landscape or whatever. Versus, I noticed with my home, I've really tried to make it a home that feels inviting and safe and quiet. My grandparents created this space when you went into their home, you just kind of went, ah. And I wanted to create that. And I haven't, I mean, it's more by intention and thinking about like what would add ease to people's lives and like what adds a loving expression. And people often come and say, your house feels very quiet and calm and I feel welcome there. And that's like, oh, that's really what I wanted. My brain can get busy and like I haven't replaced the windows. I really want to redo the floor. I haven't done the bathroom. Like I can get into all those
What are you
things.
to doing?
To doing.
Is it getting big?
I could spend $100,000 tomorrow.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But the energy of my home would not necessarily change.
I can make it big.
I can make it big.
I can make it overwhelmingly big.
I can make it overwhelmingly big.
So yeah, I can make it into a big deal.
I can make it into a big deal.
Do I do that very often?
Do I do that very often?
Am I doing that about this?
Am I doing that about this?
And what if I shifted my energy a bit?
What if I shifted my energy a bit?
Collarbone, use some skill.
Use some skill.
Under the arm. Get focused on my intentions.
Get focused on my intentions.
And the small, infinite ways that I can support that.
In the small, infinite ways I can support that.
A bit more long term.
A bit more long term.
And less project focused.
And less project focused.
That's an invitation. Again, like there are people that project focus is what works for them. They love that kind of container. And for me, with my own creativity and energy, the infinite game makes a big difference.
Well, and I like that if we're doing it baby step a day, like each day if we're being present, we can modify. So if we're like taking 1,000 miles a day kind of approach, we're already there. Like we're just like willpowering it through. We get there and it may not be what we really wanted to have. Versus if we're going to I'm going to take a mindful step and build the muscles for being mindful and loving and like kind of feeling how it feels to me. I might realize after a couple steps that, oh, that might not be quite where I want to go. Let me feel into that. I think that's a little more where I want to go. So I'm going to try that. Oh, so GPS corrects. Like if you're sitting still, GPS can't, if you're sitting in your car and you turn on your GPS, it'll go east. And I'm like, I don't know which way east is. Uh-oh. So I just start driving and then it's like, okay, idiot, turn around. Or, take a left. But if we're moving slow, at first, we're getting used to our navigation system, our internal navigation. We're learning how we want to create this. And we can co-create it with the universe rather than trying to force our will on it. And we can navigate like, oh, I really thought I wanted a pool here, but I'm really noticing the sun shines just beautifully over here in the morning. I'd really like a hammock here instead, or a bench, or a small fountain that I can sit next to. As we're taking those baby steps, a lot of awareness comes to us. And I think that sometimes when we're noticing resistance to taking really big steps, it's because we haven't gotten that clarity yet.
Yeah.
There's just not I have an idea of an outcome, but I haven't co-created it with this space and this energy.
Yeah. Top of the head. Small steps let me adjust.
Small steps let me adjust.
Eyebrow. It lets me build trust and resilience with myself.
It lets me build trust and resiliency with myself.
Under the eye. It changes my clarity.
It changes my clarity.
Under the eye. And the actions I'll choose.
And the actions I'll choose.
Under the nose. I couldn't be true to myself.
I couldn't be true to myself.
I can be true.
Oh, I can be true to myself.
Choose. What if I can be true to myself?
What if I can be true to myself?
What if I can be true to what matters?
What if I can be true to what matters?
Under the arm. Without making it so big.
Without making it so big.
Even though my primitive brain often feels like that's useful.
Even though my primitive brain often feels like that's useful. So one of the things I'd love if you feel up to it, if you I like to come to these calls with a pen and paper, but either in the chat or here, think about the thing that you decided at the beginning of the call that you would like to focus on. And if you can, write down a few baby steps that you think, and I would make some of them small, like a 10-second one. Take a 10-second step, like I'm going to put this pen in the pen drawer. Some of them could be like a 2-minute step. Maybe one is, 1 or 2 or a 5 or 10-minute step. But just write those down and to start your brain thinking, to notice that even bigger projects can be broken down into small steps. And if you write those down, this is too little, probably it will come up really strong. So I'd like to give you just 30 seconds to jot down a few ideas.
Well, I'd like to take our break here.
Oh, take our break here. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to take a 7-minute break, and then we'll tap on those things when
Perfect.
we get back.
That sounds great.
If you're watching the replay, hi. We invite you to take a break here too.
Yeah.
And we'll be back.
If you think it's too small to write down those things, realize that's probably your brain avoiding this whole thing.
Uh-huh. Welcome back. Kathy, you wanted to do some tapping on it's just too small, it won't matter?
I think sometimes when you write it down, like if I wrote down one of my small steps for clearing my desk is like I want to put this pen in the thing. It actually takes longer to write than to do it. Um, or I'd like to take the dishes to the sink, like whatever the small steps were. My brain gets really busy on this is just too small. Like it's not going to make a difference. So if you can, just get present with the small steps that you wrote down and notice what's going on in your body. And just take a nice deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Karate chop. Even though this is just too small,
Even though this just is too small,
I don't even want to bother.
I don't even want to bother.
It's more work than to write it down than to do it.
It's more work to write it down than to do it.
But I still haven't done it.
I still haven't done it.
I make it too unimportant to do.
I make it too unimportant to do.
What if I could shift my belief around this?
What if I could shift my belief around this?
Top of the head. What if it's not just moving that one pen?
What if it's not just moving one pen?
Eyebrow. What if it's being present with my body as I move that pen?
What if it's being present with my body when I'm moving the pen?
Side of the eye. And noticing what resistances come up.
And noticing the resistance that comes up.
Under the eye. It's shoveling that first little bit of snow on the walk.
It's shoveling that first little bit of snow on the walk.
Under the nose so I can get better traction later.
So I can get better traction later.
Chin. It's not just about moving the pen.
It's not just about moving the pen.
Collarbone. It's about creating a dance with myself and my environment.
It's about being in the dance of myself and my environment.
Under the arm. And noticing the resistances and fears as they come up.
And noticing the resistances and fears that come up.
Top of the head. I'm open to giving that a try.
I am open to giving that a try.
And noticing how I feel.
And noticing how I feel.
And just take a breath. And I would, if you can, like, if you have something really small like that, see if you can be present with the texture of the pen and your muscles as you, like, go and do that. And I think that brings a different part of our energy awareness versus I'm going to mindfully force my body to do that thing. I'm going to use my willpower to make myself do it. It can make a big difference on how we interact with our world.
So someone wrote in the chat, when I was thinking of small steps, I heard voices of my family saying that would not work. Lots of criticism. And this is very, like in our community, a lot of us had experiences like that. Some were pervasive and really impactful. And that's why this is a real skill. This isn't just an, I just have to do this. This is a skill where in our methodology here, it says, I hear these voices of my family. Guess what, family? This isn't about you. This is about what matters to me. Notice I bring it back to my core. Hey, this isn't even about the doing or success and failure. This is about, I want to have these experiences. I want to do these types of things. It's true to who I am and who I want to be going forward. Maybe it's not really big and true right now. Maybe I'm not particularly physically strong, but being alive and in my body and appreciating that and nurturing its strength, yeah, noisy, but this is about what matters to me, including like, you can also then include like, I want to bring a healthy body into my dance with others, into my relationships, into my tending to my resources. There's a lot of things that you can ground yourself, and that's a skill. It takes some practice, and there's a certain quality of giving the finger to the voices in your head. Say, listen, this is not about that. It's about something very different. This isn't, I get it. That won't work because your whole paradigm was screwed up and you inherit.
Can we do a little tapping on that? Because I think that helps. Hey, karate chop. Hey, survival brain.
Hey, survival brain.
I know you keep hearing mom and dad say that will never work.
I know you hear mom and dad saying that would never work. That's never going to work.
And when we were little, it was important to live in their world.
When I was little, it was impossible to avoid not living in their world.
So you conformed. Sometimes.
My brain conformed,
And you're still hearing their voice now.
and their voice is still there now.
And I have really good news for you.
And I have really good news.
They're not here right this minute.
They are not here.
Top of that, it's just a recording in your head.
It's a recording in my head.
I wrote, and they were wrong about a lot of things.
And they were wrong about so many things.
Side of the eye. What if they're wrong about this one too?
Yeah, they're wrong about this one too.
Under the eye, it's okay to try.
It's okay to try.
Under the nose, we may not get it right the first go.
We may not get it right the first go, and what does it even mean to get it right?
Yeah. Chin, we can be present and modify as we go.
We can be present and modify as we go.
Collarbone, when you hear that old echo of their voice.
When you hear that old echo of their voice,
maybe it can remind us to be grateful that we escaped.
Remind us to be great, that we can be grateful that we escaped.
Top of the head. And we can do a lot of things different than they did.
And we can do a lot of things differently than they did.
Starting with this.
Starting with this. Continuing with this.
Yeah. I do think a lot of times, like, there's nothing wrong with having bigger goals and pictures and like aim for the stars, maybe hit the moon or whatever, aim for the moon, you hit the stars. Whatever the saying is. But each day we take steps towards it. It's a rededication towards what we want to create and a re-imaging of like, oh, I kind of like the experience I would have if I felt strong. I would like the experience of having a clean desk. I would like the experience of having this sanctuary in the backyard. What's something I can do for even a few minutes? How can I rededicate myself to that image? And over time, it's like it builds up. Just like, if we tap pretty regularly, we start clearing our energy system. If we do a little bit in the yard several days a week, it starts becoming that sanctuary. It starts getting a different energy about it. The desk gets clean, the arms get stronger. But it's a rededication, like Rick every day going out to do his walk. I'm glad that felt good. Someone shared.
Mm.
Do you want to do some tapping with? We have a person that would like to do some tapping.
Yeah, if you'd like to do that.
Does that feel like a good time?
Mm-hmm.
So if you message us in the chat that you want to, hey, is it okay to use your name? Let's ask to unmute. If you want to go ahead and unmute, yeah. Is it okay to use your name? It's okay to say.
Do you want to describe what you want to tap on?
So I have to start treatment for my stomach issues, and it's required taking medication for 2-3 months, like 5-6 times a day. So it's very challenging, and I feel like skipping one day, it's not allowed because I'm afraid if I'm not going to take meds one day, whole treatment will fail.
Okay. And your doctor confirmed that?
Yes, and this treatment, it's not taking one medication, and it's multiple medication, and also experimenting with different ones, which one work better for me.
Okay.
So, and another layer of it, I tried to do this treatment for a couple of years, and because of my depression and struggle with like mental health, I mean, it's hard for me to even start.
Right.
I feel very overwhelming.
What do you feel in your body when you think about either like saying I'm going to start on a certain day, or just like what do you notice in your body when you think about it?
I'm noticing a lot of anxiety and a lot of overwhelm.
Okay. And what do you tell yourself? Why are you anxious if you started this?
I never follow up. Like I start something I'm excited about. Not only excited, I feel pressure mostly because it's pain. It's a good motivator for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like push pull.
Yeah. Okay. Karate chop, even though I have this conflict about starting this,
Even though I have this conflict about starting this,
part of me wants to move ahead.
part of me wants to move ahead.
Part of me is afraid I'll fail.
Part of me is afraid I'll fail.
And I might be afraid of other things too.
And I might be afraid of other things too.
I can just be here with myself right now.
I can't just be here with myself right now.
Even though I'm really scared about doing this.
Even so, I'm really concerned about doing it.
I'm not sure I can follow through.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can follow through.
The actual steps are quite small.
The actual steps, it's small, very small.
I just have to swallow some pills.
I just have to swallow some pills.
Top of the head, but I'm afraid I won't follow through.
But I'm afraid I will not follow through.
I wrote it's a lot of little steps.
It's a lot of little steps.
Side of the eye, and I'm worried that I won't be able to do this.
And I'm worried I will not be able to do this.
Under the eye, what if I fail?
What if I fail?
Under the nose, what if I don't?
What if I don't?
Chin, I can swallow some pills.
I can swallow some pills.
Collarbone, but can I do it 5 times a day every day?
But can I do it 5 times a day, every day?
Under the arm, sometimes I have really rough days.
Very often I have very rough days.
Top of the head, will I follow through on those days?
And I know I'm not always following on those days. Yeah.
I wrote, what can I do to set myself up to win?
What can I do to set myself up to the win?
Side of the eye, what is it that I need support-wise?
What do I need support with?
Under the eye, I'm not quite sure what will set me up to win.
I'm not quite sure what will set me up to win.
Under the nose, but I'm curious what that might be.
I'm really curious what that might be.
Chin, I could set a timer on my phone.
I can set timer on my phone.
Collarbone, I could get one of those pill dispensers.
I definitely already have pill dispensers.
Under the arm, maybe I could make a commitment for the first week. Every time I take my pills, I'll message the circle.
Oh, maybe I make a commitment for first week. Each time I take a pill, I will message the circle.
Top of the head, I bet they'd support me and encourage me.
I am absolutely sure they will support me and encourage me.
Oh, you're not sure?
I am absolutely sure.
Oh, absolutely sure.
Yeah.
I wrote, what else do I need for support here?
What else do I need to support here?
Side of the eye, is there a drink that helps me swallow the pills easily?
Is there a drink that helps me swallow pills easily?
Under the eye, maybe I could have some of that on hand.
Maybe I can have this someone have. Yeah.
Under the nose, maybe I can get a new special glass to remind me that I'm doing this for my health.
Or maybe I can get special cup that help me to remind it that I do it for my health.
Yeah, Chin, maybe I can set rewards if I do it for a full day and a full week.
Maybe I can set rewards that I can do it for whole day and whole week.
Collarbone, things I could treat myself for doing it.
Things that I can treat myself for doing it.
Under the arm, things that would appeal to me even when I'm stuck.
Things that would appeal to me even where I'm stuck.
Top of the head, or even when I'm having a rough day.
Or even when I'm having a rough day.
Just take a breath and see how that feels.
It brings some perspective, but what come up,
Mhm.
I need the guarantees that the treatment will work and I will get better.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of investment with it.
Yeah.
When we have uncertainty, we often have resistance. Our survival brain's like, the risk reward profile is unknown, so how can I know whether it's worth the effort?
And maybe like I don't need to concentrate 100% recovery. Maybe if I can concentrate, I will get better for 1%.
A smaller goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I imagine if you felt 10% better, that might be worth a couple months of investment in this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you might want to talk to your doctor about how likely it is that you'll get a reason, some kind of measurable increase in feeling
It's
better.
not guaranteed at all, unfortunately.
Okay. So I would encourage you, like, if be with yourself and like try, like, does this feel like a yes? I'm where you are, you're having a lot of health problems, you're struggling, and it's unknown if that would make a difference or not. So like, be with yourself and see what your guidance and your doctor suggest. But in terms of taking the steps, I hate that it feels sad that if this might help for you and it's a yes for you, the fear of like that commitment of every day. I think it's just every moment, like it's a recommitment 5 times a day. I'm doing this for my health. And I think if you take them with the intention of improving your health and the kindness to your body and being gentle, that might help as well. Like your body would be getting a dose of gentle care, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for stepping forward. I'll go ahead and mute you. And that's Rick and I were talking about that, just these big things. Like, we're not against big projects, but if we can set ourselves up to win. So when I was first talking to people and sharing things I didn't like, I'd be like, I really don't, like I'd be really awkward. Like, I don't want to go see that movie. Like, can we see something else? Or can I sit by the window? Or can I pay you back later? It was just like little things like disagreeing. And I started getting the muscles for it. But some of the more complicated topics, I did get a coach to come and sit and talk with me with another person. I practiced the conversation with people beforehand. I also had like, Rick, I'm going to have that conversation with this person. Can you be available like for the next hour? Cause I don't know how it's going to go. Like, we don't have to, when we have big things, we want to make big changes in the world. We're human. We want to have an impact. I think it's very important to work up with the baby steps first, if we can, to kind of build the muscles and the habit and the practice. But when we get to big things, we want to try to either break them down into baby steps, like, oh, I have this big project. Can I break it down? Or what support can I put in place? How can I make sure that I have what I need to go ahead and do this? And I don't have to do it all. All the emotional lifting doesn't have to be on me.
Yeah. Thank you. There's the specific situation reminds me that we can make the outcome what we need to have happen so big that it can feel impossible, and maybe it literally is, like, for something that's not guaranteed. And there's very little that I do in my life that's guaranteed, including this call, right? Like, I notice that's one of the ways that I can make it too big, to a requirement that's too big. So if my requirement was that I had to walk every single day, I would have broken the requirement and I would have fallen off. And so what I did is, because that was too big and I could feel the resistance, which is guidance. Resistance isn't always bad. It can be guidance that you're setting yourself up not to win. You're setting yourself up to be very stressed, strained, and have to like drive forward and push. I said things like, yeah, it's a morning mile, but it's actually like, if I'm exhausted or limping or whatever, I just set a timer and I walk a certain distance out, and I walk, not even who knows how far it is. I can walk out my front door and walk to the car. And if it's like, no, I don't feel like going out, I can turn around. But I'm I made that change in my life, which was really a change. Like, I was allergic to exercise. It couldn't smell like exercise. It had to be grounded in things that I valued, both for myself and in my relationships. Um, if I was going to have to take pills 5 times a day for 3 months, I would have to really like reach into my heart and say, why the fuck am I doing this? Because it is so out of my nature to do that. Oh, well, life's precious to me. And this is a way for me to have a possibility for it to be a bit sweeter, a bit less painful. And that's the type of person I am until I die. And so we ground ourselves in something that I believe you can feel more in the core of your body. If you have a requirement, it often is like literally like a specification. It has to, like, I have to make $1,000 on this or it's not worth doing. Ah, like there's nothing that I start that I know I can make $1,000. I could have an exit that if we don't, I'm going to do all this work and we aren't going to make $1,000 on it. It actually isn't a good use of our life force. We're going to redirect that someplace else. That's an exit. It could be that, you know, you say and you explore in this too big a requirement, too low a requirement, too small a requirement. Like, what is it? It's like, you know, I I believe that after 6 months of walking mostly every day, that I would notice a change in my body that was pleasing to me. And that was true. It wasn't big. It wasn't like, wow, Rick, what have you been doing with your life? Nobody said anything like that. I just noticed that when I had more spring, I had more vitality, I was more emotionally resilient when things got really hard. And that was pleasing to me. So you can come up with small checkpoints if it's something. You don't have to necessarily devote yourself to 30 years, but I really do believe that a thriving lifestyle has things that matter to us, that we have ways of expressing that aren't necessarily like binary outcomes, healed, not healed. Um, able to run a triathlon, not able to run a triathlon. Those are binaries. They work for some people. They actually are very destructive for my energy when I get into well, this has to happen. If I went through a crisis with Thriving Now early on, where I had set up a number of these requirements for how big the circle had to be, how many people I had to touch their lives, how many people had to be subscribers, and all of this, and how it had to grow. And I almost stopped being a coach because my requirement was not really what my heart and being, nor was it what was necessary for me to have a sustainable, thriving life. It was just this big idea that I was driving toward, and it almost knocked me out.
Well, I think that
Something that would work for me.
I think also that we can all, like, you were making it too big. And I also think if we've been stuck for a while, I've noticed for myself, if I start making a little I'm doing these baby steps and it feels really good. And maybe, initially I'm making some pretty big improvements. So like I cleaned up, I spent twice as long today, or I did it twice as fast or whatever. My brain likes to project into the future. And it's like, if I could do it twice as fast today, by next week, I should be 3 times as fast. And then I would be supermodel on the runway and everyone will be bowing down in front. Like, my brain gets all excited. There's adrenaline rush. Like, oh my God, I'm making progress. I'm going to get all the way there. And then I shut myself down because I've gone like you did with the making it too big. And just remember that can happen. If you start with the baby steps, you start to see some progress. Notice that, oh, I'm starting to get a little adrenaline. I'm starting to get too far in the future, and see if you can gently bring yourself back. And maybe we can do a little tapping on that if you agree, Rick.
Yeah, be happy to. And the when you find something that that is a sustainable sweet spot, I'm just going to add, make any kind of doubling or incrementally doing, pushing yourself to do more, something that you really consider, because that's where people snowball and they get out of what, like 5,000 steps a day is my target. My mother, who's 83, has 10,000 steps a day. Like she's a mess if she doesn't get her 10,000 steps. Like the level of um self recrimination that she gets if she doesn't get her 10,000 steps is just like, and you know, on days when I do 7 or 8, it might be a really great day. But if I change my kind of how I'm monitoring things to match other people, or try to like people who are trying to use their weight, lose their weight, to use the vernacular, but they're using energy that they've stored up, and they make some progress, and they go, well, okay, well, if I gave up all of these other things, well, I'm going to go faster. But then all of a sudden they're flooded with all the stored emotions and they're knocked off. Whereas having a trend that it feels really like sustainable for your body, and maybe like on the silly, stupid, small scale, actually has a longer lifetime impact. So, would you like to lead us in the tapping that you?
Yeah. Karate chop. What if I have some success with these small steps?
What if I have some success with these small steps?
Sometimes my brain will run away with me.
Then my brain will run away with me.
It creates these big dreams.
It creates these big dreams,
And there's
bigger
nothing-
expectations,
all kinds of expectations.
all the expectations.
And it can knock me off my horse.
And it can knock me off my horse.
I gently invite my system to come back to here and now.
I gently invite my system to come back to here and now.
Top of the head, but I want to be there. It's so exciting.
I want to be there. It's so exciting.
Eyebrow, I can feel the adrenaline rushing through my body.
I can feel the adrenaline rushing through my body.
Set it down. I invite myself to come back to here and now.
I invite myself to come back to here and now.
Under the eye, I can be mindful and present with this moment.
I can be mindful and present with this moment.
Under the nose, it's a living meditation.
It's a living meditation, and it's a skill.
Yeah. And I notice my brain is running away.
I can definitely notice my brain run away.
Collarbone, and I bring it gently and lovingly back to here and now.
And I bring it gently and lovingly, and sometimes firmly, back to here and now.
Under the arm, I did make some progress.
I did make some progress.
Top of the head, and I can really appreciate that.
And I can really appreciate that.
While I stay present with here and now.
While I stay present with here and now.
Just take a nice deep breath. And just notice that it's okay that we get caught up in the adrenaline, and then just gently, like when Adira is really tired, it's like, okay, honey, we're going to bed. We're going to calm down. We're going to no, gently, softly train ourselves to come back to here and now.
Mm-hmm.
So
we hope that, when we look at real skills in these workshops, what we're like, the fundamental here is about getting clarity and being able to take action that nourishes you. That's part of the thriving life that you want, and grounding that in what matters to you, being aware of what matters to you, and that being your energetic come from, which also allows it to be what gets nourished each time. I admit I've been trained to get the quick dopamine rush, the win. And that's not thriving that's not like a great thriving lifestyle for me. There's a there's all these different palettes of different experiences that are rich in my world now that have come from doing things like this work. Oh, it feels too big. I look at my dishes. Oh dear God, right? Too big. Now, if I turn away from it, it's not like they're going to be fewer to the workshop. Okay, there's no magical world where the fairies have arrived for me. Um, my partner has other very key responsibilities that involve, you know, um, things that I can't do. um, and so when I do this work and I say, oh, it's too big, it invites me to come back to what matters to me. Well, I do like being someone of service. I like having a house that feels tended to. I like being someone who's flexible with myself and my own energy about when it's right. So I'm not like, I want to have that freedom as well, the freedom to say no without recrimination. I love that kind of skill. Took a lot to develop that coming from the family I had. And then there's what feels right to me? If I'm not needing the hit of winning by finishing, then what often happens is, oh, I clean the coffee pot. Now the coffee pot is clean. I don't need to do it after the workshop. I don't know what's going to get done after the workshop, but I know that by tending to that feeling of too big and blocking away, or the counterpart, like, well, what's the use of just doing the coffee pot when there's, the dinner, the soup, the bop, 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 all of that still there too. You notice how I can do something that feels good for the energy of me, my expression, the energy of the space, the we space that I share, and my future self has less because I've used my energy in that way. It's a different paradigm. It's a conceptual framework, to use a technical term, of like, how do we use our energy and direct it, get our clarity and put it into action. There is nothing wrong with big goals and huge dreams and things like that. If that has not worked beautifully well for you, trying this out is something I really invite. So thank you so much for engaging. Thank you, Kathy, for co-creating.
Yeah, that's so great to be here. I can't wait to see how the baby steps work for you. I hope all of you have lots of successful baby steps.
Yeah, we'd love to hear more out at thrivingnow.center, which is where the replay will be posted. And you are welcome to participate and engage with us all there. So, bye.
Bye, everyone.